We're down at the beach at Mudjimba on the Sunshine Coast, and that's Mudjimba Island out behind me there. It's a little bit offshore, and I'll explain why we're here as we get further into the study of this major prophet book from Ezekiel. Today we're looking at the book of Ezekiel. He was a prophet born into a priestly line in 622 BC. But he was exiled into Babylon at the age of 25, and so was never able to take up his priestly role, as by rabbinical tradition that could only begin when he was about 30. However, he did take up his calling to be a prophet to God's people. He is often called the Son of Man by God when he is receiving a word, same as Jesus was called the Son of Man. Ezekiel basically tells us that God judges his own people. God takes vengeance, and we do not need to do it. It also shows us a side of God that we do not like, but God will always restore his people. It's a book that also helps us to understand another apocalyptic book in Revelation. We need to read all of it if we really want to get to know God. And it's pretty heavy reading it in most of it. Ezekiel was a contemporary of Jeremiah and Daniel, and his heroes of the faith were Noah, Daniel, and Job. He is the prophet that the Lord told to eat the scroll in Ezekiel 3:3. Then he said to me, "Son of man, eat this scroll I am giving you, and fill your stomach with it." So he ate it, and it tasted as sweet as honey in my mouth, he says. And you know, we should eat the words of God too. We should get into the word and eat it. It does taste sweet. As a young man, he had an awesome vision of God, which we will not go into here, but it changed his life and began his career. Ezekiel was a married man and was called to do some very strange things, like lying on his side in the marketplace for 390 days and eating a meagre cake bread that was baked on cow dung. And then for 40 more days he was able to lie on his other side. He could not roll over as he was tied into this position. And this was to speak to the people of Judah and the people of Israel who had been disobedient for 340 years. He was protesting the fall of Jerusalem for their idolatry, their immorality, and their ingratitude. The Lord told him his wife was going to die, but he was not to grieve for her or say anything. But on that same day, Jerusalem would be destroyed, and later someone would come and tell him about that. Many people remember Ezekiel for the valley of the dry bones in Ezekiel 37. But I want to share how he prophesied how God was going to pay back those surrounding nations who had attacked and destroyed Jerusalem. And that's why we're here on the beach with the island off the shore there, because he made a prophecy against Tyre, which was a city on the Mediterranean coast. It's still there today, but it's not on the coast anymore. It's out on an island off the shore. It's in the country of Lebanon. But back then, Tyre was on the mainland, like where we're standing here. And in the 11th month of the 12th year, on the first day of the month, the word of the Lord came to me. This is coming out of Ezekiel 26. Son of man, because Tyre has said of Jerusalem, the gate to the nation is broken, and its doors have swung open to me. Now that she lies in ruins, I will prosper. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, Tyre, and I will bring many nations against you like the sea casting up its waves. They will destroy the walls of Tyre and pull down her towers. I will scrape away her rubble and make her a bare rock. Out in the sea she will become a place to spread fish nets, for I have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. She will become plunder for the nations. And her settlements on the mainland will be ravaged by the sword. Then they will know that I am the Lord. And then from chapter 26, verse 7, he says, for this is what the sovereign Lord says. From the north I am going to bring against Tyre Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, king of kings with horses and chariots, with horsemen and a great army. He will ravage your settlements on the mainland with the sword. A few years later, Nebuchadnezzar II actually attacked Tyre on the mainland in 586 BC to 573 BC. But then Ezekiel goes on to say in verse 12, he says, they will plunder your wealth and loot your merchandise. They will break down your walls and demolish your fine houses and throw your stones, timber and rubble into the sea. I will put an end to your noisy songs, and the music of your harps will be heard no more. You will never be rebuilt, for I, the Lord, have spoken, declares the sovereign Lord. Now it's interesting that Ezekiel said many nations will come against you, and the first one was of course Nebuchadnezzar. But then this other part of the prophecy about having his fine houses and his stones thrown into the sea was fulfilled in 333 BC when Alexander the Great came and sieged the city. This is over 250 years later since the prophecy. And when Alexander the Great came, the people of Tyre all moved offshore to a new city on the island, just like this, a little island offshore. And they thought they would be safe out there, as Alexander didn't have the capacity at sea as he did on the land. But after a long siege, Alexander built a causeway across the ocean to the island, using the old city of Tyre on the mainland. And he got all the stones and the timber and the rubble, and he threw it into the sea 250 years after Ezekiel prophesied it. But he also said this, I will bring you to a horrible end, and you will be no more. You will be sought, but you will never again be found, declares the sovereign Lord. Now archaeologists today in this 21st century have searched for traces of the old Tyre on the mainland, and they have found nothing, because it says you're going to be sought but you will never be found. The very name Ezekiel means God strengthens, and although we do not like to read about the wrath and the vengeance of God, it still applies to those who rebel against him. Most people around us live in a modern Babylonian world without many thoughts of eternity or how they're going to spend it. Many will say God is a loving, peaceful, forgiving God full of mercy and grace, and so he is. But Jesus reminds us, many will come saying, Lord, Lord, and I will say to them, depart from me, for I do not know you. That's in Matthew 7:23. God is a jealous God and wants that none should perish, but he also wants us to acknowledge that we are sinful, we need to repent and follow him, seek him and listen to his word. The book of Ezekiel has been a wake-up call for us. Both Pauline and I have got deeper and deeper into the word as we've gone through the books. And you know, we just want to get more and more of him. The more we get into the word, the more we get to know him, the more we love him. And so I'd recommend that you open your word, read the books all the way through, study them, just meditate on them, see what God is saying to you, and you will be blessed. So that's it from Ezekiel, down here on the beach at Majimba, with Majimba Island in the background. The next book we're going to study is the book of Daniel. So if you want to join us, please do by clicking on the link on the screen, and we will see you then. So have a great day.